Thank you, thank you. Can we please take our seats, everybody? Take our seats. First of all, thank you to Cardinal Turkson and Tim Murphy for that absolutely fascinating conversation.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, our next panel I'm slightly excited about. Oh, very excited about.
Oh, the only one. I'm not excited at all.
Because we're going to be talking about a subject that is very close to my heart. As an athlete, I know how important it is to enable your teammates to show up as their full selves. And for the next conversation, I'd like to invite an athlete to the stage who has embodied this philosophy for her entire soccer career. And she's a champion, an activist, and co-founder of A Touch More. Please welcome to the stage, ladies and gentlemen, Megan Rapinoe. Yay! Yay! Come on, bring it in, bring it in.
Hey, everybody.
She gets the cheers, doesn't she? I like that.
What a moment. Oh, yeah, one more time. Wow.
Megan, can I ask you a quick question? Quick first question, and this is going to set the tone for the whole chat.
Okay.
Do you call the beautiful game football or soccer?
Why do we have
Let's
to start
be serious
fighting?
now.
Why do we have to start fighting?
Football
right?
or soccer?
Whatever is most advantageous for me in the moment.
Say football now.
Yeah, football.
Come on.
Yeah,
there you go.
And the crowd goes wild.
Yeah.
And the crowd goes. The
This
crowd
crowd.
in other countries perhaps goes wild.
It's both-ish. I don't know.
No, it's
not
football,
really
no.
soccer. I don't even know what that word means, but
I would like to say it's football, and that will rest the case.
Football.
There you go.
No.
There you go.
We're so excited to be talking to you. It's such a treat to have you here with us, and there will be so many lessons from this conversation, I think, for leaders, people leading teams watching right now. And I want to start with something for really both of you, but I'll start with you, Megan, is that Ade and I were in conversation yesterday about the athlete's mentality. Now, I'm not an athlete yet. But,
Everybody
there's
is
hope.
an athlete.
Everybody's an athlete. But I was asking Ade about, this willingness to win and doing it at all costs and winning at no matter what, and how that is such a beneficial sort of attitude to have in life. But he challenged me on that. So before we I spoiled.
I can't believe you've gone there.
I'm right there. We're going right there because it was really a surprise to me, and I think it might be to you too, what he had to say about it. But I'd like to turn it to you first and ask you, do you believe the athlete's mentality of winning at all costs, that is the most important thing, is easily translatable to real life situations?
I mean, I think first and foremost, for me personally, like nothing is more important than my own humanity and everybody else's humanity. So we're playing sports, I'm like, it's important, it's not that important. So I think that's what I don't think anything is more important than anybody's humanity. So I think that's just like the baseline for everything. And then I think it depends on your definition of winning. I mean, I think if I'm talking about, being an athlete and playing sport, like I want to win the World Cup. My definition of winning and being successful is winning the World Cup. So, I did it.
We can all agree.
Is it twice?
Yeah, twice.
Twice.
Yeah. We did it twice. The me versus we, that brings me exactly to my point.
But there is me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, they obviously couldn't win without me.
You have to own it. You have to own it.
But okay. I mean, I think to that point, like you can't win all by yourself, but the team also can't win without you, and it can't win without everybody. So, of course, the goal was always to win the game, but it was like, how do we do that? If this person, touches the ball every single time, and maybe that's great for them, and nobody else does, we're not gonna win. We're not gonna win if people are overly selfish. There's a certain threshold of selfishness that you can have, and a certain threshold of selflessness that you can have. And anything, outside of that isn't good. So I think it's a matter of bringing the best out of everyone and getting the most out of yourself and your team. And I think that's how you get the best product and give yourself the best opportunity to do the winning, whatever that may be.
But out in the corporate world, that translates into how would you see that as somebody who's leading a corporation? It's raining again.
It's a shower,
it just
by the
comes
way.
to remind us of the miracle of life.
Life, yeah.
It's the approval of God when you say something.
The water breaks.
Yes. But how do you think of this mentality of winning and just winning at all costs in terms of the people here leading teams, they're leading organizations, and obviously the trade-offs are different than in a contained space as a football match. Mm-hmm. So how do you think that sort of winner, all or nothing win mentality should play out? Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think, of course, in business or in a corporation, whatever it may be, you're going to have certain markers that you want. What do you guys call them? KPIs or OKRs? All the things. I know what they are. Honestly, our goalkeeper coach started using it at one point. I looked
Your goalkeeper side?
My
KPIs.
goalkeeper coach, and I looked at my Stanford teammates, and I was like, even I know this is insane. Why is he using that as the goal kick? But of course, you have these markers that you want to hit, and if you're, the CEO or the boss or the manager of the team, you can't do it all by yourself. So how do you motivate everyone to get them essentially to do what you want them to do, which is to reach the marker? You can certainly work them to death. You can, manipulate them. You can, scare them you can harass them into doing what you want, or you can use a different carrot and, motivate people in a different way. I think that goes back to having people be their full selves. I think you show up to work, you feel appreciated, and you're going to give that back. You're going to sort of give that respect and ultimately buy into the team aspect of getting, whatever thing done that you need to get to. Yeah. I think there's a pretty short shelf life on badgering people into getting them to do what you want to do. It might work a little bit, but eventually that's going to have very diminishing returns.
I think it's about getting people on the same goal, on the same page. If everyone can share in your journey, share in the belief or the culture of the team, then you don't need to coerce people. I think one of the issues you do have in sport is we push ourselves mentally and physically to places where I don't want everyday people to go. And I kind of think for me, I started to think more and more about this once I had a son, and just thinking about him getting into sport. I remember taking him to watch, he's only 3, but we went to watch a little tennis tournament, and I saw the craze and the aggression in the eyes, not of the players. These kids were like 7 or 8. The parents on the side. It was insanity, and I'm like, wow, is this, how do we create that drive, that passion, but without that win at all costs, that lose your humanity side of things? And that's something that we have to be really careful of when we're trying to learn from sport, because sport is about finding that fine line and pushing that fine line. We can't do that to people. There's mental health to think about. So we can't do that to people in everyday life. Could I just also ask a quick question on that theme, in terms of the lessons that you've learned from sport over the years? How have you used them to navigate the everyday world? Because now we're in a world which we've talked about so many times. It's in flux. It's really difficult, with the existential challenge and threat of climate change, the political upheaval, wars all over the world. People are struggling. Yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest thing I always take away is the, it's cliche, but the teamwork. The relationships with other people, the different perspectives. I have loved so many of my teammates. I have not liked some of them.
Exactly.
And not even people, there's people that I don't even like or not like. I'm just we're clearly not for each other. And that's okay, but I need you and you need me. Yeah. So the understanding of that relationship, I think, is really important. I think the relationship between your physical body, emotional body, and your mental body. I think so much with athletes, we think okay, how am I doing physically? I think as I got older, I realized the mental and emotional side was so important, and they all interact with each other. So how do you take care of yourself, both from a mental perspective and from a physical perspective? Failure has been, I think, the biggest thing that I've learned. Getting comfortable with failure, not being embarrassed by failure. For us as athletes, you're just constantly
every day.
failing every day, and to see it as an opportunity, to learn. And then I think just like enjoying the times that you have. I mean, obviously I'm retired now and have so much more time in my space, and I am a little bit like a disoriented toddler because I'm like, oh my God, how do you make a schedule? How do you stay to it? When's someone coming to pick me up?
It was great. It was great when you were competing. Someone took care of everything. When you ate, what you did, it was brilliant.
But I think just like the bits of enjoying life, and you can't, sacrifice everything for your work.
I do love this notion of team. I think it's so important to the work that everybody here is doing. But I do want to pivot over to the individual. And you've talked about how the best way to form teams is to let people shine as individuals. You've taken some pretty big risks in your life as an advocate for LGBTQ rights. You took a knee after Colin Kaepernick. You were one of the first to do so. You have waged a very difficult fight for equal pay for women in sports. I'd love to know a little bit, I mean, why one does these things, because I think it's this, most of us know that those are the right things to do, but I'd love to know what it felt like right before you took these big risks, because a lot of people in organizations, they feel, well, I don't want to, I'm the CEO here or the head of this association. If I take a position, I'm alienating this person. So how do you measure the risk, and what did it feel like right before you did these big things?
Yeah, I'm like, stressful. Mostly stressful. But also with the sense, I mean, again, for me, like human rights and other people's humanity, and certainly my own humanity, is paramount. I mean, we are on this earth for such a short amount of time. We all sort of, come in the same way and go out the same way. And we all know what it is like to be a unique individual with, a mind and stories and a beautiful life. And so I think that is always where I go back to. Like, what am I actually doing? I didn't like take a knee for like a corporation or something. I did that for people and for myself and for all of us. If if one of us isn't free, none of us are. So that doesn't mean that it doesn't come with, stress and anxiety and, doubt and, sort of overthinking. I mean, I try to educate myself as much as possible. I try to talk to as many people as possible. I keep a pretty close circle of, certainly my family has no problem telling me everything they think all the time about what I'm doing. But, I have a lot of really amazing people around me. And I think at the end of the day, like, you're going to lose so much more sleep over inaction than doing something, and maybe not getting it perfect. I didn't always do everything the right way or say everything in the perfect way, but allowing myself the space to grow. And I think, I never lost sleep over standing up for myself or other people. And I think I understand what you're asking about leaders in business or government or whatever it may be. And I just think at the end of the day, like, what it's like to be a unique individual. And I think if we start there, like, we can find common ground with people. So in the end, it was hard and easy at the same time. I mean, the backlash was difficult. I think I was, as a white person, naive to the sort of like immediate sentiment and just how close to the surface it really was.
Is that taking the knee?
Yeah, definitely.
That got controversial.
And when it's, so plain as day, obviously. So that was a little bit difficult to navigate, but I always feel like, I always look at it from the perspective, not who I'm talking to, but who I'm speaking on behalf of or with. And, I feel like I got a lot of support in a lot of ways, and I focused on that more than the hate or the distraction.
Do you feel the weight of responsibility in terms of, when I was coming up in sport and moved from sport to TV, I felt like people always expected me to be that guy that talked about disability issues, to be that guy that talked about black issues. And I just kind of thought, well, we're not one homogenous group. You know, I'm not the person. I can talk a little bit, but I can't represent everybody. And I found it so overwhelming at the beginning of my career that I actually ran away from talking about those things because I felt like I didn't have the bandwidth or the space to be able to do that.
I think being a little bit older when a lot of my activism started to like really kick off helped a lot. Being more mature, having more capacity, being way more educated than I was when I was younger. Even, you know, coming out, that was more personal. So it was like, okay, I can, you know, understand how to talk about this, and there wasn't as much media. I think being a little bit older helped. I think also, I definitely have my moments where I have a big bitch about like just how unfair the world is.
Yeah,
sometimes,
we should do.
For sure. I had one to my therapist yesterday. She collected me really quick. Yeah, she was like, okay. But I do feel it is a responsibility because for whatever reason, all the things landed here, and you know, I'm able to speak at places like this, or you know, have the talent to play my sport in the way that I did. But I also see it as a great privilege. I never had someone like me to look up to when I was younger, and I don't know if you did either. And so whatever sort of difficulty it is, like I'm gonna get in a black car and go back to the airport and, you know, land in New York and go back to my apartment. And I think that there are extreme privileges with being someone who's famous enough that people want to listen to talk about this kind of stuff. And it doesn't, you know, there's the humanity side, of course, where, you know, I have my moments, and I think that those are important. I don't want to cut myself off from, you know, the feeling of it all, but I also feel an enormous privilege to be able to speak to the people that I do, and to be able to have done the things that I've done, and been in a country and in a place where we have a lot of work to do, but like I can be really out and really gay and a really, you know, some people call me obnoxious. I think I'm pretty charming, but you know, or I can be charming, or I can be really charming.
Megan, any foul words? We have a shower to clean.
Yeah, exactly.
We're waiting for the confirmation perhaps to come through. No, I'm curious if you know, people listening, and there are people all around the world listening right now, watching this, and obviously our audience here. It's sometimes hard to take a position that's going to create change when you don't have a platform like you do, or like you do, Ade, yourself. And I wonder if what you would suggest, as what you would offer as advice to somebody here or watching, that how they can act, behave, do something to move the needle on inclusion forward, because the world seems pretty complicated. I probably could talk to my therapist too about how dire it is. We can do a group session later.
Shout out to the therapist.
But really, it does seem like the world is a difficult place, and I think all of us here who have access to drinking water and to roofs over our heads are pretty privileged, right? But still, no matter who you are, you are able to maybe impart a little seed into the movement of inclusion. What would you say that people can and should be doing?
I think first and foremost, everybody has a responsibility to do what they can with what they have to make the world a better place in some way. I mean, here in America, if you're a citizen, you can vote. That is something hugely impactful that a lot of people don't do, that I think is really easy to do. I don't think anybody has the responsibility to like lay their whole life on the line. Most people are not in that position. They can't lose a job. They can't like, you know, blow up the office like with something like they're not in that. You're not in that position always.
You haven't met some of the militant disabled people that I know, man. Jeez.
But I feel like there's always something that you can do. There's always, you know, an intersection of privilege where you stand where other people maybe don't. So find those places. Find the something that you can do. It's a little bit addictive, I think, in that way also of like, I just think in our bodies, we're like social beings and we're about community and we want that with other people, and being, you know, in strife with one another or in discontent with one another isn't really a natural way of being, and it's not a natural state. So finding those connection points with people and like, live a little, take a little risk, put yourself out there a little, at least educate yourself. We have, you know, our fingertips on all of the information in the world. So be educated, so when you get in conversations with your families, coworkers, whatever it may be, I think you can have something to fall back on. And then again, I think like the ultimate argument all the time is just everybody deserves humanity, and everybody has a right to that, and everybody has a right to show up and be their whole full selves in the world, in the workplace, at a game, at an office, or whatever it may be. I don't think there's a lot of arguments to come back to that are very genuine.
And yet the world is so polarized. I mean, how do we sort of marry those two notions of just, you know, I agree with you, it's about our humanity, but a lot of people, like, how do we bring over the people who believe that their version of humanity is something different?
Oh, I'd say it's about listening, giving people a voice and listening to hear. I think the main reason why we're so polarized is we've got a lot of people who feel they're not being heard, and that allows people to come in and exploit them and exploit the fact that they've not been heard. There are bad actors out there, but the truth is I've learned, and coming from team sport, I know that whole thing you say where there will be people in your team where you'll be like, I love this person, or another person you think, yeah, in normal life I wouldn't get on with you, but we have to listen, and we have to find a way and find common ground. You know, and the greatest people, the greatest revolutionaries, people who have moved our society on, are the people who have managed to bring us together, and not try to exploit our differences. Talking about risks, Megan, I also wanted to find out, have you thought about going political and making a run?
Before you answer, I would like to remind you that you are in the nation's capital.
Exactly.
And we are in the business of starting rumors on this panel.
Get your cameras out, get
We would like to have maybe an announcement be made, perhaps.
There will be a shower.
The shower.
A baptism of sorts.
That could appeal to a certain segment of our population.
Yeah, you got to bring everybody in. Yeah.
Anything that you'd like to announce? Or an interest, express interest?
You know me, I'm always into politics. It's funny when people say they aren't. I'm like, well, they're into you. Politics loves everybody. I don't know what you're talking about. It's all over you. If there was a ticket, it would be Sue's name at the top for sure. I can't get from
Sue
point A to point B.
Megan's fiance, for those of you who don't know.
No, currently I am not interested in going into politics. I'll never shut the door completely.
Okay.
I do think...
Turn the shower on.
I love it.
I didn't say I wouldn't be good. I do think that we're in a sort of Instagramification of our politics and the sort of famousification of our politics that I don't think is healthy. I do fancy myself as intelligent and smart, but like not nearly at the level that you need to be at to craft policy and argue
that you
for the Supreme
should
Court.
Be at.
I'm a good megaphone and a good mouthpiece, and I'm happy to do that for the politics that I agree with and that are for the people.
I like what you did there, megaphone.
Yeah, I'm a Megan phone for everybody.
You got it.
I love that. A megaphone, that's a good campaign slogan. I am getting all sorts of Oscar music, be done, wrap it up over there, and I can't ignore it. So unfortunately, we do have to wrap up. Please give Megan the round of applause she deserves.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you.